so chala kare go da nga so tun wa ta Tormas zosa nu delewa tene che tene nga so Tormas zo je ga zampa tene marko tene nga so ta de tabde go ndo ta te ngetana
So first, so now Lama Abu has prepared what it is that you would need also to have ready if you were when you make your tormas. So the first thing that Lama is showing is a bowl. So whatever you're going to mix the dough in, mix the torma dough in. So you need some kind of a vessel, a bowl to mix it in. You also need some water, just kind of some room temperature water. And then you need whatever your grain is. Lama Abu here said he has sampa, but as we discussed earlier in the week in a chat, it is also okay to have oatmeal, quick cooking oatmeal. So whatever your grain is, and then some butter. And the butter is melted. So you melt down the butter. Or you could also melt some ghee, you melt down the butter, and that's what you need to start with. Those are all the vessels and equipment that you need.
Okay.
So now please, Lama Abu said, please watch, and he is going to demonstrate how to make that torma dough.
First, I wash my hand.
Okay.
Okay. Now you have it. Okay. Now this. Okay. Can you come to? Daya.
La.
Tada Torma. Laba tusa de tene. Torma zamba de laba tes songo na tene tes slola. Kondo na tene. Nama sava tatanga da awa loka da oma sombara hongzo na tatende sigo yore tene. Ang jumbo kashe. Tene. Pe tiwa chimbo. America nangin busy chade yore tene. Koran so Torma gulong yu mari. Da gek Torma tamde gulong yu mari tene koran so la. Megne tene tende sine ta Torma mache ko na tende luxor yoris.
Ani shuyeshanda chigla abulamala yang kagyap ani tene torma sodu yang ani pana kagyap gogiyana maskuna
Kasi zonizo kasi.
Kasi.
Da whenever Tormas of the kasi jago yoris tene.
Oh, las.
Majam ndegera.
And so first Lama Abu said, when you're finished washing your hands, now to start, Lama Abu said if you can wear a mask, that's good to cover your mouth. So it's good to cover your mouth if you can, but if you don't have a mask, it's also okay. You can make tormas without it, but traditionally they cover their mouths. And when you're finished washing, or when you're finished washing your hands, then you take a little bit of the grain on your hands and you put your hands in the grain and get a little bit on your hands, and you go outside and you kind of brush your hands together so that some of the particles of that Torma substance will go out to the local deities and protectors, or the local protectors, because some of these local spirits, and then you use the mantra Namo Sarva Tathagata, and so forth, that Lama Abu demonstrated. While saying that mantra, you brush your hands together, because some of these local spirits that might be too busy to partake of a Torma offering otherwise, like we are so busy in America. So these local spirits can receive a Torma offering ahead of even the Torma being prepared.
Okay, now Torma, this is your list. That Torma Mambo Zoka, Mambo Gogo, Torma Union Zoka, Union Gogo, you Tata, how much ounce? Do you remember?
Yes.
400.
Yeah, 400.
400.
Yeah.
400. Samba euro.
400 grams. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then that doing it. Then there's a cholo.
Okay, so first, let me translate this, Lama Abu. So first, Lama Abu said he has the grain, and although there's not, you really have to figure out how many tormas are you going to make. If you're going to make a lot of tormas, then you need a lot of that oatmeal or barley flour, the sampa. If you're going to make a lesser amount, then fewer tormas, you just need a lesser amount, a small amount of grain. Here it's 400, I believe it's grams that they're measuring in. And the next thing Lama Abu said is add water.
Just not much, right?
Yeah, just a little.
1 cup.
Maybe 1 cup.
Yeah, 1 cup.
From here to here.
Yeah, so it's a 1.5 cup.
Maybe one cup, something like this. A little bit too much water like now.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and then we need oil, right? Butter. Kosong.
Kosong. So now you need water, as Lama Abu said that in English. I'll just let whenever, yeah.
Then thing was on the jagore, non the thing was on the thing was on the go song talk, because Sinjala Panda. Oh, home Sinjala Panda.
And so when you're adding the oil or the butter, then traditionally you do that 3 times in 3 different segments where you add the butter. And this represents body, speech, and mind, or Omahong. So we say this with Omahong, and this represents the blessings of body, speech, and mind. So we bless it with Omahong.
No man cannot name Toma Chaduyoma, no young cannot Toma Yorum Dugumaris. And the Takasi Jacosarangas Arang Susi Goris.
And so actually, the amount of butter that you use really does make a difference, because if you add too much, the torma won't form. If you add too little, then the torma won't last long. And so this is something that comes with time when you learn how much butter or oil to add to your dough.
Oh yeah, then it in the Tata Torma Jaguna, there's a plug of castle. There's a common catching a yagins.
Lasso.
They in the thing I chance on the Tatoma on this. My lagins.
And so now Lama Abu said it's good to let that dough just rest here and set for a few minutes before he actually forms it into a torma and shows you torma making. And so in the interim, then he will give some explanation about tormas.
Oh, then that torma, the door, Zena, that's it, not that zone de patanje. Ha, door, tama, tatama tela door. Then ma, the Zewa Chimbu, then the Sentin Tamjela, Ganyanke, Mar Jimba, Zogomaneta, Tendetirindos.
And so the word torma in Tibetan is made up of two syllables, tor, ma. And tor means to cast out. And what is it that we're casting out, that we're giving out? And that's all that we hold on to and all that we cling to. So this offers giving away all that we cling to, and that's the tor. And ma symbolizes the maternal aspect of great love. And in this context, it is actually great love, like a mother has for her children. And this great love we have for sentient beings. And so that is the second syllable, ma. And so tor, and that makes up torma.
And Torma Jaya, just one get so son, and then drive a huge thought of each other is.
And so also when we are making and offering tormas, then there is both a cause and a result. And the cause is the accumulation of the merit that we gather through the making and offering of tormas, and that is the cause. And what is the fruition of that cause? Well, that results in the attainment of wisdom. So we have both a cause and a result when it comes to torma making.
Oh yeah, then it doesn't so. La drop, Nandung, Sansi, Chupambu. Then it Gable Jan to Jete, Bonda, the Gary Lissina, Naso, then it Saja Chimbo, Don Toya. Take children, then I saw Sosaka Yorova. They into the Torma Zoyat, then Sosaka Tap your ears.
So there's many different spiritual activities, Dharma activities that we do. And for example, we practice the deity to accomplish the deity. We recite mantra. We offer prostrations. We then also make offerings. There are many different things that we do. And why is it that we do the activities? What's the reason that we do this? And the reason we do it is for the purpose of attaining Mahamudra, for accomplishing Mahamudra. And so it's said to accomplish Mahamudra, we do all of these very meritorious things, and it leads one to the accomplishment of Mahamudra. And so as Torma, making an offering is a very meritorious, we also are making tormas for actually ultimately the purpose is to be able to realize Mahamudra.
Okay, then it's so zo drapa sang suna tene rangin ke tene saja chimbo toba cheke yoris tene so zo suna sa suna tene matla tene shirap chimbo tene ta control rangin ke teba che toba tene lama control lama sanje chula rangin ke teba che toba semchen tamde la rangin ke ninji che toba tende de cha yung geris tene ngaso tata tene semchen la ninji che mataba tene lama control tamche la tene teba che maraba te ngaso tene bakcha drapa drapa yo pala tene ngaso tene che to yo mares tene tene so zo drapa ta suna tene rangin ke tene ngaso sente la tene sewata ninje ta tene shirab ke mai rangin ke tene cha yung ko yo le tene sowa nung bong da wo tene cha yung ko yo res.
And so it said that one needs to gather merit and purify negativities and obscurations. And if one does that, then one naturally will attain wisdom. One will be a person who is very wise, who has great wisdom. And that one will just naturally have faith towards the enlightened beings and Buddhas. One will just automatically, naturally have great faith to those that are enlightened. One will have great trust in the Guru, and one will have great compassion towards sentient beings. But for us now, as we have obscurations and negativities, we're not able to have this great compassion for all sentient beings, nor complete trust in the Buddhas, for example. And this is because of karmic imprinting and because of negativities that obscure us. And therefore, we need to purify these obscurations. And if we gather the accumulation of merit and so forth, and we purify, through this, we purify our obscurations, then naturally this great love, compassion, and the eye of wisdom, we will naturally attain this. This will be the result.
Ngaso hundo yondo gondo wa hundo te atene chek langa isam je draba ta ku chi de tene hundo yondo go yore ma to te che tsu thola tan chen da o ta tene te asa da o mariwa te de tene kimbo ma sa sung ge chen su hundo ya bo yo go re hundo ya bo ya na tene sa ja chen bo ha ko ge hundo ya bo ma ya na tene zoba chimbo ha ko khabo yore nga ge zoba chance hodo ma ya ba ne zoba chimbo he kan chance ha ko to mare tene hodo sho so na tene draba ta ba la tin de ne tene la ma thu ji ta tene rang draba ta sum ne to ta tene de ba ta tin de ne tene sa ja chimbo le la ha ko zoba chimbo le ha ha ko to mare tene sung ge yore tene na yin ta kajo koma tamje ke namthala te na tene marpa ke malare pala kawa ma ko che ji yorwa marpa la ninje me pa mare wa ninje me pa mare te yena yang tene malare pa kore la topa sinje malo pa yang ta ba ji che go yode tene tela ta che ka che ta be chung ta ta tende si ji ne ta tende nang yorwa.
Ani Kempo Munsel, ani sung parela. And so we have the practices of Nundra, which are preliminary practices that that we engage in the beginning. And when we engage in the preliminary practices, this is a way of concentrating our efforts in a very positive way where our energies do not go to waste, but they go into these preliminary practices. And Khenpo Munsel gave the instruction that that if one practices Nundro and practices well, one really engages in the preliminary practices very well and perfectly, then one will realize Mahamudra. And if one does not, then to even realize, for example, the great perfection, or the great perfection, Khenpo Munsel said, then if one practices Nundra well, one will realize the great perfection. But he said that if one doesn't engage in the purification that takes place and the preparation that takes place in the preliminary practices, then even if I teach you, this is something that you will not attain. You will not, even if I teach you about the great perfection, you will not be able to understand it. You won't come to the same understanding. And so therefore, it really all comes down to the, we need the blessings of the Lama that will teach the practices, the great perfection and so forth, but also then the students need to be purified of obscurations and completely filled with faith. And this is what leads to attainment and accomplishment. And we can actually see this in many of the historical accounts. For example, if we just look at the life story of Marpa and Milarepa, and Milarepa's teacher, his guru is Lama Marpa, it's not that he did not have great love and compassion for Milarepa. That is not the case, that he was not compassionate and caring towards Milarepa, but actually he knew that Milarepa needed to undergo all of the difficulties that that Marpa actually imposed upon him. This was actually like the blessing that Milarepa received, this hard work, this instruction from his guru of hard work, so that he could gain attainment.
Okay, then the daring a door, the carry torco units, and that patongo unit, on the tela, then Torma take, then Torma and Runja, Runja, then control second room, ne Pawon control control, then the dog 17 control. Tene lencha pono jen rong zen tan rong ye yo ro de de tene rong ni de tene a tor de tene tor zen chuban bu yuen chuba tene lama yadan kando chujong tan de la chuban bu ya de la a tongwa tene rong hin jin rong lencha pono rong de tene mar roa ro tene lencha pono da po tan de la tene toma jimba tene toma ke tene yan chupa ta mar jimba ni sike yores
Ani di yardi di lama danyedam. Yardi mar serpodo di lencha pang.
Yar te poncho sigen rung ta tene chujong sumala chupa ta ten da wa
Ani kerang yang pawo kandro.
ya chujong suma zen da pa on kan chupa wa
Oh, lasso. So we talked about that first syllable of tor in Torma. And so what are we tossing away? What are we giving outwardly? Who are we tossing or offering the Torma to? And so actually this is classified in different ways, and it's sometimes classified as the 4 guests of the Torma, or the 4 recipients of the Torma. And the first are the enlightened beings, the jewels, the jewels of enlightened beings. So that's the first recipient of the Torma, 3 jewels. And then, so like the enlightened beings. And secondly, the dakas and dakinis, like all of the protectors and so forth. And then the third class of recipients are the 6 classes of beings. And the fourth recipient or guest that partakes of the Torma are all of our karmic creditors. And so we have these that so when we visualize, so when we're offering out the Torma and casting out the Torma, we are casting it out to these 4. So we can also think that when we're offering the Torma, we're offering it up to the higher classes of beings, such as the LAMA and the enlightened beings and the protectors, like the dakas and dakinis. And then when we're offering, so this is an offering. And then the classes that we consider that are lower than us would be those beings in the 6 classes of beings, 6 classes of sentient beings, and those to whom we owe karmic debt to. And these we give our generosity. So we offer up to the higher beings and we give down to the lower beings, those that need our charity within the 6 classes and those that are our karmic creditors.
Okay. Tene Torma the tene po ni chibo no tarim ba mayin ba huma tomba tyomdin de yog de backups in the Torma song yuris. Tene that na supo chimbo che ke tene tomba tyomdin de la tene chuba am dong su tang tene said there is tene jin korang so changbong dao cha tene is on the tene shen lang lo so Malay Pata, Loso Yabo Malay Pata, any Chong Yabo Mason, but George has one race. And the Tomba Jomdin de la Shi, the Tomba Jomdin, the Chinese, the Shi on the Chinese, the Chiranka Yan, the Papa Gendon, I think, Ninka Siena Yan, the Yerk, you like that, the Lenchap, Nontambilla, Orma Matang. Didn't take June in the Tinichiran, you like that, the Lenchap on Torma Tana. Tinichiran, the Pinsa is on, then the song is
Generesic Sumbare. Lasso, Generesic Sumbare.
Genes the song door.
Susan Sanjay.
Sanjay Tumba Jomdin Deck. Kazang actually yet on the Chang day in bed.
Lap song, any Serpo Chama song.
Oh, the name Tumba Jomdin, the yoke the backup, sir. The name Supo, you're a suppose in a Chanhakora
song.
The Poranga, then Tumba Jomdin, Dan Chupa, Gendumba and Chupa, put in the said there is. They called Jenny Korang Kampucha songs.
Disopodo.
Then it Tumba Jomdin, the Lashu. That they can not the reason she did. Tumba Jomdin, the oh, te Papa Chines, the shoes on. Then Papa Chines should do. Then Chines, the oh, Chang, Tumba Jomdin, the Gendumba Tampilla, Chuba, then the select the Yena Yang, the Sanek, you like it that, Lenchapon, Tomatan, don't take it, the Chang, Song Yabo, Mari, Patan, Long. Loyabo Maripa, then it tended in the song dotini, Chirank Tomatana, then it Pinsari is on, then the song that they call Tomatan, the Nicolan, Humana get any Japan, Jurupando, checks attended, Noah.
And so then there's the tradition of Torma making in Tibet, but it isn't just something that is a cultural thing or a thing of the people. Actually, this is something that that the Buddha Shakyamuni spoke about, the offering of Tormas. And so there is the account of the time when there was a very a wealthy person, a person of means, who was staying in a forest and like in a kind of a deserted forest and doing Dharma practice, doing some very virtuous Dharma practices and making offerings and doing some very good Dharma practice. And he was very well off, very well to do. But then later on in that same year, this person who was making all kinds of offerings became poor. He became destitute. His luck ran out and he became very destitute. And he wondered, what, I'm doing all of the right things. I'm doing practices and making offerings. And so he went to the Buddha, and the Buddha and told the story to the Buddha, and that he had been, making offerings to Chenrezig and doing Dharma practices.
No. Just he asked
Chenrezig.
Buddha. He asked Buddha. Buddha said, "You ask."
Oh, you asked Chenrezig. Okay, that's okay. Then a Lengyapkin ani Chenrezig re or Buddha re.
Yes.
Chenrezig. Okay. So Buddha said, then you please go ask Chenrezig about this. And so he asked Chenrezig, and then Chenrezig said that yes, you were doing some very virtuous practice and offerings, but actually you have karmic debt from your past karma. You have karmic creditors, and you didn't offer to your karmic creditors. Now you should now go make like this special Torma offering, this special offering specific to your karmic creditors, that class of beings of karmic creditors. And so this person who was now dead for And so the local spirits, so Chenrezig said, your karmic creditors to whom you owe debts, and also the local spirits, please now go make special offerings, like a Torma offerings to them. And so he did, and his shortly after, then all of his wealth was restored back to where it was.
Okay. Then Torma then for Pula. Now you turn then that Torma Chungchong la Yunkarzang. Then Torma Chembola, then Kawa Toksa Surisa. That then that was all you can
Toksasun?
Yeah, Tiripolos.
Yeah.
That then that was not looks on that was on the tradition that was China. Ni Jachimbo, thanks about it. Mambo Chas on this.
So then there was the custom of making tormas, and came as small as a mustard seed and as large as a 3-story building. Really, really huge tormas as well.
Oh, then Torma la, then Mama. Renzin Koma Nampatam Jacket, and Danhang the song Deva. Then it Cholok Sosola, Toman Dramanda. Then it Tormala, then it Torma Rain Dramanda. Then a Mambo song your is.
Ani Sudi Dangnang Chene? Rick
Renzin Koma.
Renzin Goma. Oh, okay.
Renzin Koma Generate, Akaju Koma Nampa Generate, and it Mambo Yura. LAMA get in it, Danhang song deva. The net don't time get Danhang song when they were all non Gurun Bochik, Vejakala and Sopan so in Gurun Bochin Yamdana, the net Tomal and Danda with Zundo, Shaval and Danda was Zundo, Jebal and Danda was Zundo, Jinkol and Danda was the corners of Danhang song deva. The net Janet Lama Kebat and Big on, and then that is all bond, and then that is in at the net. Then they check Tondando, then the Sazo Feka, Tandamata Cartaja, Boman, Nihan Dramata, Rain Dramata, Mambo, you raise it.
Then many accomplished masters of the path or of the past, be it within the Kagyu lineage, Nyingma lineage, and so forth. Many different forms of Tormas came out of these past masters, accomplished masters, through pure perception and pure vision, actually having visions of the different kinds of Tormas, or traveling or actually going to the pure realms and beholding a different sacred objects. There are many, many stories of many past accomplished masters having done so, and then thinking, and then through this spiritual attainment and experience, having the inner knowledge, for example, of how to then make a Vajrakalaya Torma, exactly what it would look like. What would the implements be? What would the style be? So through this pure vision and actually going to the pure realms, they came back with this knowledge. And now, holding this knowledge, we're able to take this knowledge to the creation of the design of what a form, for example, of the mandala would be, what a tanka picture would be, what a Torma form would look like. And so now all of these various styles of Torma came out of that past pure vision and direct spiritual experience. So, and many treasure revealers revealed in this way as well.
Okay, then it Torma. Torma tiene taxami, Torma tata machina, ani pe carbo chando, the tangi Torma cahe jaging, didn't they tunging, didn't they say that to suit down a case shaking, okay?
Okay, so now Lama Abu will be, while he's speaking, he'll also be forming a few Tormas, because he'll have a few to talk about. So, and he can speak about as he's forming these Tormas.
Yeah, Tata Torma Mazuna, I'm Chapo Chan, Jam to Channel. How goes one?
Lasso, the Torma Mazuna, Yabokoma Chung Yankirchik.
Yeah, Torma Tata Mazuna, then I'm Chapo Chan on those.
Oh, if you don't make them correctly, if you don't form them correctly, Kare? Tata.
Torma Tata Mazuna, Tata, right now.
Oh, Tanda, oh, Lasso, yeah. It's going to dry out.
Dry out.
Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, he needs to make it now because it's getting dry. The dough is drying out.
Okay, how Tata like Kator again, Kator te, ta, Yola, Shibda, Tanti Latini, Tomaris.
Ani Kator Kare la?
Okay, can you close? Tata Kator Jagger, Kator. Hello.
Lasso.
Kator te, Naso, Saland Upper Capsonary, Joan Soper Capsonary, Teni, Mundo Torma Dowry, Mundo Torma. Tene, Nan Saland Dogi, Teni Chiran Sanen Della, you like Jibda, Chiran Soga, Teni Nalan Tunchi, Roram, Sirochi, Nala Noba, Matang, Zonatini, Tennis, in a Caton Boca Yoris, take Della Cator, Mundo Tormas and the Yoris.
So now Lama Abu is going to form what's called a Kator, or the White Torma. When we talk about the details of the White Torma, this is a Torma that we use at the beginning of a practice or the beginning of retreat. You're going to find it in the preliminary stages of a practice or a retreat. And the purpose of this White Torma is to be offered out at the beginning of the practice, saying, Now we're going to undertake this retreat. We are going to undertake this retreat and this practice. Now, please don't harm us during this retreat. Don't cause any problems or trouble for us. Now take this Torma, be satisfied, and go away and let us be free of obstacles as we do our practice. And so this is also could be called a White Torma or a preliminary Torma.
Okay, Della. Yeah, you depend up, yeah.
So there are 4 petals around.
Yes. And then that got the top up. There was over, right?
Now this is the base that it sits on is formed at the end. So it has a base to sit on.
Okay. Then that you yoga. Oh, then the Katori.
Ani di karitsungiorela di.
That thing was carrying. So how come so?
And so I did ask about if there was any particular symbolism in what Lama Abu just said or what he just made, but he said there's nothing particular to speak about.
Okay. The Kator, that Victor, Tene, not so one number caps and a way, silent over caps and a way. Tene John Soper caps and a way. Tene Victor's gig, Zenatini, not so lucky. Lecate la parche poem and our Tene gig like a Yorua. Then the Tene Koran Solatene, and Victor Jonathan. It's like
Now Lama Abu is going to make what's called a gektor, or the hindrance torma. And this is something that is tossed out to any hindering spirits, any obstructors and hindering spirits. And so that would be anything that causes an obstacle to our practice, anything that blocks us or hinders us from practice, causes an obstacle makers and so forth. And so now he'll make this hindrance torma. Now, whether we offer or toss out one of these and empowerments before an empowerment, before a retreat, if we're just like even staying in a meditation retreat, or if we're staying in a great accomplishment like a sadhana practice retreat, we offer this what's called the gektor or the hindrance torma in the beginning.
Dictor Dama Mambo, you the Chalok Luxor. And it's some market character, new market character, challenge. That Luxor Dama Mambo, you.
And so they're actually depending on the school of Buddhism. There, for example, in the Nyingma, Kagyu, Sakya, there would be different traditions. So they would be formed a little bit different. So there are, the specifics of this will vary according to the particular tradition.
That home, you can see.
Can see.
Yeah. Then I don't know. Then the Jago.
So now you put this in your hand. You put that in your hand and you squish it in your fingers, and you saw Lama Abu pushed it with his thumbs too on the ends.
Yes, Chesson. Okay, Victor.
And that is a hindrance torma.
Then the gay Koran, so then yapu, zipo, simpo chaga servanda dela.
Mm. And actually, this is formed in a way where it will be like really irresistible, so just like so irresistible and beautiful to any hindering spirits. They will find it delectable.
The naso the zumanda. Then naso zupo chabri, zupo. Body.
Yeah.
Body.
Human body?
Yeah, that's okay. Zupo chap gawa.
Okay.
Yeah. Human body go on, human body. Yag body go on, yag body. Or man, fish body. Well, the lag.
Oh, whatever they like.
Yeah, Koran sola teni ngaso nga sinavi teni see you teni Koran sola karin do pa tena ge teni nga sinap teni jondo ko yoris.
So when this form in the front that Lama Abu had taken in his hands and formed in that particular way that lays across the front symbolizes a body or a form. And there's kind of a consecration mantra or a blessing mantra that is said over the Torma before it's offered out. And when saying that mantra, that turns that body into whatever that particular harmful spirit would like, be it, a human body, if it wants to eat and partake of a human body, a fish body, a yak, whatever it wants, that the mantra transforms it into whatever they would want.
Oh, tene ta katsang marinda ke tene kineze nyungen chona tene toma kari gokari lamdo tene toma chutor je gokari te chutor dandawo jeke yoris.
Oh, that's so.
Tuntor dandawo chu choke yoris. Tene ngene kineze korang toma na tene nga ka zogi yin la bachi.
Okay. So Miranda had sent in a specific question asking if one were to do a Nyungne retreat, what kind of a Torma offering, what would you have for the Nyungne? And so for a session Torma, you could form a session like this, the White Torma. You could do that. And now, in particular for Chenrezig practice, what might you use for Chenrezig practice? Lama Abu is going to make a particular Torma for that.
Okay, this looks like delicious. Okay, Torma Koran la many chipariwa. Met zupo chembo na tene Koran la pele ke tene gotan la patan kamba takta yu boku yore. Met zupo chunchong na tene Koran la pele ke tene gotan la pa kamba chasang chap kupa de go yore. Tene met zupo chembo go chunchong risona reke yo mare. Tene met chunchong go chembo ri dena tene yago yo mare wa tene Torma Koran la tene chase de takta yu boku yore. Tene
So when we see someone, a person, for example, who is attractive, part of the reason that they are attractive is because there is they have the right proportion of their face and their eyes and their neck and their body. Everything is in proportion. Someone that we might find attractive doesn't have a small body and a huge head, or a tiny head and really big body. It's in proportion. And that's what makes it an attractive form. And the same can be said for Torma. The proportions of the different parts of the Torma are really important. So that things are in proportion is what makes the Torma correct.
Okay. This head, this is belly, this is a leg. Okay. Then we need Then we make like this. Maybe you come to here. Yeah. That's a do. And then the just got part the dim in the got your reason didn't go. Torma
So
good. Torma go you must. Got your reason didn't go.
Mhm. So now you have to, once you've made that former on there, what's really important is that you form, what we would kind of call our bottom, what we would sit on, our base. And it's the same thing. What it's going to set upon, you need to form that on the bottom. Ani lama abula di kator di chutor di offering torma nangshin re ani di la nangshin yingere la. Kator de di chupa ani nyungne pekapsu kerangi o maranda gi triwadela o di chupa nangshin re kerang tuntor nangshin re.
Torma chuba food.
Chupa re ani tanda de di la yimpa. Dire tanda gi torma di la re.
Then chuban boyari kinezela anchuya.
So I was just clarifying with Lama Abu. So the torma that he's forming now symbolizes the deity. It symbolizes, in this case, Chenrezig. And the last torma, the white torma that Miranda asked about for like an offering torma that symbolizes food, what to offer during Nyungne would be the kator, that first one. But now this one is not an offering torma, you don't offer it out. It symbolizes the deity, in this case, Chenrezig.
Torma corona payment dama ye zogo geres. And then a payment zohoyoris payment.
And now Lama Abu is making the 4 petals of the lotus. There's a 4-petaled lotus on this torma, and now he's making the 4 petals.
The payment parla pay top like payment top, pay top, the pay top, the payment chiarewa, the payment chunga.
And so that this symbolizes that there is a full lotus. So these little markings symbolize the substitute for a full lotus.
The payment okay. The payment chia, the payment chunga.
And so you can see that there is the larger part of the lotus there, the larger, and then the smaller petals. So you can see the larger part of the lotus is on the bottom, and the smaller in those little triangular shapes. Oh, double, okay. Okay, so now it's like there are two lotuses. Or it symbolizes. And actually, it's very important to be precise. So with regard to the size of the lotus, so this sits on a lotus base, that bottom part of it is the lotus base. And Lama Abu said it's important to pay attention to the correct size of making those markings in the lotus.
How can you bring this down? Okay. Now Torma finish, okay? Like this. Chinese the Torma, Lama Torma. Finish. Make like this, okay? 4 petals. Like this. Go for it. Okay, go for it. Of course. Okay, now Thomas finish.
Now you can see the double lotus that he was mentioning. Mhm.
Okay, no, it's okay. Okay, now that
So,
yeah.
Kerangi Depa, Nangla? So, Kerangi Depa. So now this is a
now I make Shaze offering Torma. Okay.
It's food offering, is that correct? Offering of
Yes,
food?
Never, right?
Nawite. So when we do our offering mudras and we set up the shrine and we say Nawite, then this is a food offering, and often in that bowl, and when there's the 7 offering bowls set up with the Argam, Padyam, Pushpam, and so forth, this is Nawite, or a food offering Torma.
Shaze Chembo, Shaze Chungchong, Berna Bodhigaya Latini, Nima Mulan Sodu, Tini Shaze Jahandua, Shaze Pe Chembo, Masa Jahandua. Tini Shaze Chia, Chunga Mambo Yori, and that ring Shaze Chungchong.
So this is a small Shautse offering, or a Nawite offering. And but actually they come in all different sizes. And in Bodh Gaya, when there's a particular Nima prayer festival, there's such a giant, shall say, a Nawite Torma, it's the size of a person. So they can be all different sizes, but what it symbolizes is an offering of food.
What?
Next branching.
Broaches. Bredo. Okay, the Shaze Torma. Shaze? Tongsong.
Tongindu, Tongsong.
Okay, that's Shaze Jesari, okay?
Okay, so now the Shautse Torma, the Nawite food Torma offering is finished.
That Marcus Sogore. Can you make hot this? This?
And so now Lama Abba was saying that this is then coated with a coating of melted butter. Karecheni mar gap kore mar. Karecheni la.
가르치는 마크 속거리 라고 요에. 마크 속나더니 코 요는 뭐 네트워크. 마크 마존나더니 공간으로 그래.
Oh. So what is the reason for, the question was, what is the reason that it needs to be coated in butter? Lama Abu said, if you coat it in butter, then it will last a long time. You can set it out on your altar for a long time. And if you don't coat it with butter, it dries out.
Okay. Then that Tormas what you just then talk and dream at depa. Then direct not so. Then Carson. Oh, tentative is all go your is.
The Torma Gido Nangla.
Mari Thomas what you wrote Jipka.
Rere.
Jipka tell us any talk dream at depa. Sha Song Gonga Shanchang Go all that Shata Changda Gobata Song Tandem Madepa Direct Naso Shinto Naso Oma Karsong Asun Tinte Tanje Sapa Ranga Longje Mahapa Attend the Goka Yoris. Koso
Yapo Hakamoso di Sha Dang Gokpa Dang Chang. Ani Karecheni Gore.
the Goga Maris.
Oh, Gogimare. Oh, las.
Thomas Zojek, Jipchala hasn't Jipchas in Hariwa quality.
Hakosan. Yeah.
Better.
Yeah.
Tela direct Naso Hakorwa. Direct Naso Dena De Dal Ne To De Gorwa. Direct Naso Gogaris Carson Narson Shinto Gogari Madotene Togta Shata Songta Gopata De Locamaris on the
Okay. And so
Hakosan.
culture Hakosan, in a Namgyun, the not so the Sayagi Kolamare, the Torma Nangla.
Mari Tormas Zoche.
Oh, lasso. Okay. Oh, lasso. Yeah. Okay. So actually, it's important that the instruments that you use to make the tormas, like everything that you're using, the plates and the bowls and the spoons and forks and so forth, those should only have come in contact with certain different materials and food substances. So for example, anything that you are cooking that comes in contact with meat, garlic, onions, alcohol, eggs, and so forth, you should, like those things, then you would not use those to make your tormas. But anything with grains is fine. Anything that has come in contact with rice and barley and buckwheat and dal and any of what's called the three whites or the three sweets. So anything with milk and yogurt and sugar and cheese, that's fine. And any grains, but you shouldn't make your torma dough in anything that has had eggs, onion, meat, garlic, beer or wine. Poison, anything poisonous.
Okay. Then the Torma Sopa, Jade, then Lala Sopa is Torma Sopa Las.
And it's also said when you coat the torma, then you do this from the bottom up. You stroke the torma. When you apply the butter, you go from the bottom to the top.
Then it cups on Kela so
However, sometimes occasionally you might need to do a downward stroke or a cross stroke. but the general instruction, and I believe Lama quoted one of the texts there, the scriptures on Torma making, is Torma making coat from the bottom up.
Yeah, that Torma la zen chong doi.
Yes.
That Torma ya bu cha so.
So it can,
Dal so ba ja yu ma ri tene. Shining.
shining.
No.
Yes.
Okay. Tene ta a kapjin ja go yura ta kapjin ja de. Tene dal korku check declaration ta. Da che go gre, da chong go gre. Da che, da chong. Ten Torma la pele ke tene ja go ro.
Now, usually when making, now the next step when making the Torma would be to add the butter ornaments. And so there are different butter decorations, and on the Kartor that the White Torma that Lama Abu just had, there's a butter disc. There's a smaller butter disc on the head, like the head of the Torma, and a larger butter disc on what Lama Abu called the belly part of the Torma.
Then Torma zo je de ngak long je charpa. Tende go loga maris sapa go go yores. La
Kare
ye cha.
lung che sarpa.
Long je san ngak pi chu se na. Sam chong ra Torma je na de yo maris. Ha go so.
Ako masang.
Perna.
Ano?
Zamba yu na. Zamba tang bu ngak su char de tene pi chu ta na de yo maris. Sapa go yores.
Oh, lasso.
Pechu tang san the sa locomotive tan the Torma zu kana yasa ri sena tini ndeke yo maris.
Oh.
Also
Also, and then the ingredients that you arrange to make your Torma should be very specific and special. They should be specific and new for the Torma making process. So, for example, if you were to get some oatmeal or some sampa and be eating it and say, oh, this is not so good, it's not so fresh. Actually, why don't I just use this for Torma making? That would not be appropriate. So be it the butter or whatever you're using, it should actually be something that's new and purchased for the purpose of the Tormas, not something that you don't quite care for. It's not working out for you, and you just say, oh, I'll just use it for Torma making. That would not be appropriate.
Karis sina ngaso chupa tang yura chupa in the chupa la zang mar java ye song yu ma yuri ma to par java ye song yu ma ya.
Yeah, and so hakosan. And so we're making offerings. Tormas, the art of Torma making and giving it out is an offering. And it's said that we should offer something that's clean. It's not like, oh, here's something that's dirty. Here's an offering of something that's dirty. No, it's pristine and clean. It's an offering. So we don't gain an accumulation of merit. Say, oh, I'm going, this is so meritorious. Let me give you this dirty object. So we want clean.
Okay. Then ta Torma te tam dor de ban ra lakshana ta Torma te ta rumbo chik ta par song to yore tene Torma lan dishi ya song yore tene Torma druptor phuktor taktor sotor chutor Gector tazen mambo yores tene Torma tintor na tene lo mambo le tene kangpa na nyando gres pune kangpa na nyarne tene tang ne koda na nyando yores tene druptor jena tang aso hinje dwa so the druptor ta perban so the druptor kontor yuwa te tamje tene take up so tene Torma te lala gonko yoris mitin down mitin lala gonko yoris then Torma te tene jinkola gonko yoris then Torma te chuba la gong ko yo res torma te tene ngurup la shona tene wang ling yo res te de tene torma la druptor tang tene puktor tang je ten zar chen bo de yo res
La so poktor gi korla kon manyon poktor.
puktor je na tang khapa na na nyando ya re nyando ya
Oh, la so.
tabar nyando ya re lo man bo la torma zone dan da torma te tene ngaso lo man bo nyando ga 100 years old.
So basically, in short, briefly, there are many different kinds of tormas, and actually Rinpoche speaks about the different kinds of tormas and the different ways that we can see the torma again and again. So there are certain tormas such as the sadhana torma or the accomplishment torma, the offering torma, the hindrance torma, the torma that actually remains and that one saves actually even for many, many years. One saves this torma in one's house. But for example, if we take the first kind of torma, the druptor or the like the sadhana torma, when we form this torma, for example, like in the Yamantaka practice, so when we take these 4 perceptions of the torma is the deity in the first place. So for example, in the first perception in the Yamantaka torma, then there is a torma that is formed that serves the purpose of the support of the presence of the deity. And that stays during our practice. And so the torma is the deity. And then the torma is the mandala of the deity. So the abode of the deity. So a torma also can be perceived as the deity itself, the abode of the deity, an offering to the deity, and then fourth as the spiritual accomplishment or the siddhis, the practice accomplishments that are attained from doing the practice. And those are the 4 perceptions of the torma, and Rinpoche is speaking about these again and again.
Okay, tene torma la ta shewa jepa wang chapu so na torma la sheje wang da torma so yo res tene shewa torma la zakarpo jepa torma la serpo wang torma la marpo chapu torma la napo tene shewa torma ke sepsu nedon parche tamke shewa gongda shewa torma ke nedon parche tamke shewa jeba ke tene sepsu panjar tamke jebar sipa tene wanga torma ke tene ranhang wangdanda yinhang serjenu
Rang Nang Wong. Oh, that's Stroke Talk song. Rang Nang Wong.
ranhang ranga nawa tamke sor wangdanda tene yinga nawa tamke sor rangnanda topa not something out simba shon oh so beautiful sound it langsang that chan or marive
Yingire.
right and then matam so wang den no ko yore then wang torma ke then chaku torma ke jinka parche nedun tamche pha me par zowa that then sheje wanda torma yore is.
So then also, so we have peaceful and wrathful tormas. And so the tormas actually can be so we're familiar with the peaceful and wrathful, but then there's also the magnetizing, there's the magnetizing and the expanding. activities. So we have the 4 activities of peaceful, wrathful, magnetizing, and expanding. And so with the peaceful, for example, the white activities of the peaceful tormas, then what is it that is being accomplished through the peaceful tormas? This pacifying activity. It's the pacification of any disease or harmful spirits or obstacles. So we pacify sickness, spirits, and obstacles. And then the expansive activities, what is it that is increasing and expanding? It is increasing all of our wealth and possession and our means. And so this is the increasing activity of the increasing Torma activity. And then we have the magnetizing activity. And the magnetizing activity is that one gains like a power, one magnetizes others and gains power and control. Others become under one's spell and under one's power. For example, if one were to set eyes upon you and say, oh, wow, that person is magnificent. They are attracted to us and they are pulled into our spell and our power, and then under our control in a way where they're attracted to us and want to do whatever it is that we need and want. And so that's magnetizing activity, the tormas of magnetizing activity. And then the tormas that enact wrathful activity, enact wrathful activity towards any spirits or difficulties, obstructing spirits and obstacle makers, then they are wrathful to eradicate those harm doers. And so those are the 4 activities that also are accomplished by the tormas.
Okay. Tene Torma ke jin tamche la tene Torma ke jin tamche la tene kanjong manjong mayin pa tene tela la tene shenlo norwo patra tene traki tabje zebje tene jasi nabdung zelenda tene drameda tene jimsung se ya yores.
Okay, tsepje sana? Tsepje.
Zebje zena na ta yonkar tarwa barwa zona zebje zu yuang so lama lo tenjong phu nga so cha hu yuwa so nga chi phu de yuwa chi zebje zen ta zebje barwa zona tarwa yonkar gawang dote mambo yore te zebje te tumba chomden te ne sangje backups tene loma tamje ka perne tumba la perte tene tra hi be zeze senje la kya parewa.
And so also then there are decorations. There are these butter decorations and ornaments on the torma. And these are not just something that are haphazardly made or put on with no meaning or purpose or symbolism, actually, because there are these different shapes that will be the shapes of, for example, discs or jewels and decorations, but they symbolize something that is very specific and also significant and important, such as the different kinds of jewels, the 8 auspicious symbols, the 8 substances, and like the 8 special substances. And so I asked Lama Abu what the substances are. And so, for example, they are like mustard seeds and saffron and different things like this. But the meaning, Lama Abu said, was that at the time that the Buddha attained enlightenment, then his disciples made him these very special offerings to the Buddha upon his enlightenment. And these are the 8 different substances that the Buddha was offered by his close disciples.
Kator mator. Kator tela sheva de jeban de huris. Mator tela traputa wang tan trapun de huris.
And so basically, if we classify the tormas to 2 categories, and this is very really like a very rough, like basically, then there are the white tormas and the red tormas. And the tormas that are white tormas are symbolize the pacifying and increasing activities, and the red tormas symbolize the wrathful and the magnetizing activities. And that reminded me that I forgot in the tormas of the 4 activities, the peaceful tormas, the peaceful activity is symbolized by white, the wrathful activity is symbolized by black, the increasing activity is symbolized by yellow, and the magnetizing by red. And so we have the 4 colors in relation to the 4 activities. And then now here, broken down into 2, we have the white and the red.
Okay. Then the Torma dermala, then Rabina, sir, nor then sang ja, then the marina, then it that play to Yinda, that carry in the Chama Sompa, Kema Sompa, that is the Chinana, Toma Jago is.
And now, so now what about the plate that the Torma would be set upon? Actually, there are different kinds of plates that are ideal to have for your altar to put your Tormas on. And that would be gold, silver, iron, and brass. And so if you have, or copper and brass, or copper and iron. Yes, copper and iron. And copper actually is said to be one of the really precious, it's said to be a special and precious substance. So gold, silver, copper, and iron. And if you don't have any those in particular, then any dish that is intact, it is not broken or cracked or chipped, would be fine.
Okay. Then the copper, I don't think so. It's not copper. Oh, that's good. Oh, somebody want to show this. Like this. Okay, that's good. Okay, then that Gector and the Dawjin Jaboris, Gectola, Tejima, Panjin, you maris, any Jabla, Jabjin, you maris, Jabla. Gector and the is over.
Okay, so now Lama Abu, you can see the butter ornament on the hindrance Torma, and then on behind the hindrance Torma, there is no what's called the back ornament of gyapgyen in Tibetan. And the other forms of Torma, offering Tormas, have a little like dash of butter on the back that is the back side ornament, and you can see it in the White Torma. But on a Gektor, on a hindrance Torma, we do not. You do not place one of those. But the other Tormas, you take a little bit of that butter that you use to make the ornament and put it on the back once you've completed the ornamentation.
Okay, the Kator, Jin and Jagores. And
And
that's
then-
thing what never that nato butter ya butter American butter judgment what the naso chick mixa zone ya yura jin dan raw ja ko yuris din del jab jin yuris.
So usually those are made out of butter. So here, and also that back, in the back, that would be butter. So here, Lama Abu has used some, it looks like dough. Di dough di margen be.
Do.
So, okay, yeah, it's hard for me to see, but that's actually made of dough. But usually you would use a particular kind of butter, like an ornamentation butter, and you'd put a butter on the back. But yeah, Lama Abu used dough in this case, but usually it's made of butter and a little ornament on the back.
Okay. Then in the ta naso chido che the siga reason in the ta then injeriwa then karta jan then ta tormate then chuba re jimba re then torma yada tam gerik tam belam chodor zone torma river din don then cholo hora then lencha polong tam bel torma tam yuris then la tam bel sharze karta jan ta deba ke deba tan chuba deba dina control some chuba torma then torma so to mar lencha polong tanjela then torma ki jimba chodor zone ton ta tesia yuri tin torma tin ram bo so saya mambo yuri then chana to torma ja thonna ya bo ri ja ma thonna then ta ching thon da ta then cake rauta, cooking rauta, shana, meeting rauri, takata, meeting river, meeting at in the tenet, Damra, Saint Sancho River.
And so again, just basically that a torma is something that is an object of generosity. It symbolizes our giving. And what are the objects that receive our charity? Well, the offering, we have the offering of the three jewels and the enlightened beings, the higher objects of our offering. So we offer up to those deities, enlightened beings, those jewels, and then down to the, and with faith. So the objects of reverence, so the guests that we have reverence to, then we offer up to them. And then to the protectors and the enlightened beings, we offer our reverence and we make offerings. And then down to the lower classes of spirits and demons and the spirits and our karmic creditors. And we give to them, we give our charity to fulfill our karmic debts. And so it's good if, you can make tormas and use this, offer them up to the higher exalted beings and give charity down to those in need or repairing our karmic debts. But also you could use an apple or any kind of like a piece of a fruit, a cake, a cookie, because remembering that the torma serves the purpose of being a support of our visualization. And so we can use anything to visualize as our offering. So it could be a cookie or a piece of fruit because it's a support. It's an object of our support of visualization.
Oh, tari check check on the tenet torma, doctor, sotor, lavimba, doctor, genatine, torma latina, tenet, tasum yuris. Tenet torma in member, torma netene, torma can curtuse pa, torma la dirtsa papa. Zonetin ram that the Kaju command object torma ne tasum yuris, tenet, the bat setting song you me. That Nantana yuris, then is sort on drawing sort it in ngā tō nā weapon rāu, sōngchāng rāu lō mē kō nē, tā chī ngū mō bāntō chā xie dāng, tō mō kī, tēne rāng jī bān zīn bē, rāng jī bān zīn mā tāng bē lā tēne, tā chī dōng hā tō, kā ngā tēn dōng mā, tā tē lā sō pā lō mē kō nē tēne, mē tīng sō tōng rāu, tā tē bē nē, yō rē sī. I forgot.
And so when Lama Abu was talking about the different kinds of tormas, like the torma that we create that actually stays for many years, and then there's a torma that we visualize as the deity during our practice, and there's a torma that we offer outside. He also mentioned that there's a torma called the sign torma, and then there is one that is called like the projectile torma. And the sign torma actually is a torma, and this is depicted in many of the historical accounts, that shows signs of accomplishment of practice. So when one is in an accomplishment practice and so forth, this particular torma has elicited or has exhibited signs such as it bursts, it gets bigger and it bursts, or Amrita actually begins to flow from the torma expands and gets bigger, and burst, di tangpo di parma,
Torma ni membawa,
membawa.
torma ni dertsonga, torma
Membawa, bulwa di bigger, marbe, expands bigger.
Mari, torma membawa.
Oh, mepar. Oh, so it has fire that comes out of it. Dirbe, mepar.
Really, torma ni membawa. Torma ni dertsonga, torma ngorwa.
Gurwasana.
Gorjana, moving.
Oh, moving. Oh, talk to
Ngaso doctor tini mana tini doctor phondo ko yoris tini doctor ngorne ne tini hinje doa ta thun ta la tini doctor ngorne tini doctor la kya thaba ya go yoris the tini lapsa yori.
So actually, so a correction, it's not that it gets expanded and bursts. So just going back, it actually, there have been accounts that fire begins to come from the torma. So flames emit from the torma. Amrita begins to flow from the torma, or the torma actually moves. It begins to move all by itself. It just, it begins to vibrate and move. And actually there was the account of a torma during practice di Shinjegi Nyamlen, Shepikapso di Gor.
Yeah, Shinjegi doctor.
Yeah. So in the
doctor go lodging on the lab you tene new my Shinjegi so on it tene Shinjegi doctor tene phondo chiwen tene jag thaba jam tene ta yuris tene yena trisha yuri.
Okay, so it's actually written down that during a Yamantaka practice, this particular sign torma, when it began to move and vibrate like it was going to like come off the plate, it began to move just naturally. And so now there is the practice and the tradition of when lifting up the sign torma to wiggle it a little bit to represent and kind of remember that that moving of that sign torma when it began to move. And then also then there's the projectile torma that is like a weapon. And so when this projectile torma is offered or thrown out, what is this weapon aimed at? This weapon of the projectile torma, it's aimed at piercing and hitting the target of the afflictive emotions of attachment and or desire and hatred and ignorance and jealousy and so forth. And so it hits the target of those, or one's the self-grasping and self-cherishing. And so the projectile torma is aimed to destroy, to hit all of those things.
Okay, that then that would it. That mambo she have me that so then got so. Then the rob them out there. Then I and the door.
And so our time is up, and that is just a basic explanation of tormas that I was able to give this evening. Hello, young Kirsten. Okay, La. Yes. So now we're out of time, and so hopefully that has satisfied the topic and the questions. And so Lama Abu is just checking, is it okay if we finish here? Yeah, I don't,
Yeah, I think okay. Yeah, then thank you everybody. Wish and benefit your guys. I don't know. Chance of pinto you look at use. Then it I delay.
So I really hope this was beneficial to all of you, that it was helpful to all of you, and I will see you all tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, good night, good appetit. Thank you. Bye-bye. Also.